Have you ever experienced a dramatic drop in sales from a previous month that caused you to have a strong reaction, maybe even a bit of a panic attack? This is Mark Kanty with Release Dynamics with another practical strategy. I'd like to share a brief case study with you that just happened to me very recently in the last few days that I think will help shed some light on this idea and hopefully give you some practical strategies to release the full potential of your business. Let's dive right in. So I received an email from a client just a few days ago, and he runs a small business. Basically, he has one full-time technician, and then he serves as the second technician. Busy times, he's full. His calendar is full. And when he's not, well, he actually has some days off. But he's always obviously trying to stay as busy as possible. Here's what he wrote. Mark, we're down about 50% from last month, so we're booking Dave, but there are 4 days a week open for me. We may have to dial back the marketing costs. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. Let me have a look at the numbers and see if I can verify what he's talking about and see if I can get some better understanding as to why this might be happening. So I took a look at his numbers. This is October versus September. So last month in October, he did $27,997 in revenue, but that was down $18,682. Whoa, not quite 50%, but certainly 40%. Not only that, he was down across the board. His invoice count was down. His average invoices were down. So at this stage of the game, there might be a question to ask and say, hey, is this a time to cut back? Do I need to look at my marketing costs? But instead of doing that, I want to look further. So I suspend judgment and say, let's take a deeper look at the numbers and see if I can figure out even further what might be going on and what might be the best strategy at this point in time. Let's look at it compared to the previous year. So if we look at October of 2017 versus October of 2016, you'll note here that actually his income was up. His revenue was up over $3,000 from the same month in the previous year, as was his invoice count and the average invoice that he was charging. That's a pretty positive indicator, but maybe not enough. Obviously, 1 month is probably not enough to make a good decision or develop a strategy around. Let's take a look at the past 90 days. Let's manage to the quarter. So if we look at the past 90 days, this reveals even more insight. His business was actually up $27,353. And again, he's up across the board. His average invoice is up. His average invoice count is up, as is his revenue. Over $27,000, in fact, compared to the previous year. Let's look a little further. How about year to date? So let's look from January until the end of October. This reveals even more insight that we can maybe look at some of the strategy around. His actual revenue compared to the previous year is up $37,000 or 15%. That's a nice sizable gain. His average invoice is up $62 or 31%. Now that's interesting. Let's make note of that. Now let's look over to the left here in his invoice count. It's actually down 150 invoices. Now, let's think about this for a minute. His job count is down. Now, if you're running your business and you look specifically at how busy am I? In other words, am I only working 1 day a week and do I have 4 days a week that I'm sitting around? Is there an immediate reaction and a panic thinking I'm not busy enough? I must be losing money? What do the numbers reveal? What do the numbers tell us? Well, the numbers in this case say that, wait a minute, I'm working less, but I'm making more. How come? Because in this particular case, our marketing strategy was to get the value of his product up in the eyes of the consumer and therefore his price structure up. His average invoice has gone up over 30%, which is allowing him to make more money while working less. Now, of course, at this point in time, his strategy could be twofold. He could go in two different directions. He could say, hey, I want to work more and make even more, or I kind of like this idea. I like having some time off. Either way, it's a sound strategy based on numbers. So let me ask you, let me defer for a minute here and just compare this graphically, because this is another component that I always like to do with people, and it really brings to light, often when we're looking at numbers, we don't see through the numbers, but if we look at them in a graphical or a visual context, then this can reveal a lot more information for us. So again, I apologize for skipping there, but let's have a quicker look and a deeper look again. graphically, because this really reveals a lot more information for us. We'll see here that we have 3 years of worth of data, actually 2, almost 3. So we've got 2015, 2016, and 2017 data for this company. Now, if you look at the 2015 year, you'll see he was off to a good start, a nice ramp up from January, pretty much right through to August. But then there was a drop off in September and October. Another point to make note of, low October, what's going on there? And then back up for November and December. Let's plot that out as a trend. If we look at that as a trend, just roughly speaking here, the straight line will tell us this is a good solid growth curve. This business was growing in 2015. Now let's jump to the gold line. Let's look at 2016. Things are getting a little wonky here. Look at how he had that steady growth curve from January right through this time till June though. And then it dropped off in July and August. Then he rebounded in September, back down again in October. Mental note, twice now we've gone down in October. Could this be a seasonal impact that's happening that maybe is an external factor that's somewhat beyond our control? And then it bounces back again in November. But let's make note of something else that happened here. He actually dropped off in December below the 2015 year. So if you look at his numbers back here in January, he's kind of starting each January over again in the same place. That's interesting. Again, let's look at the gold line and let's put a trend on that. Pretty much the same as 2015. So consistent growth, but again, just kind of getting back to where he was. In fact, a little off. Now, a little side note, because I did ask some questions and find out a little bit more about this company and what was going on. If we look at 2016, he was doing Groupon at certain times of the year. Was that increasing his profitability? No. Was it increasing his revenue? Yes. So this is where we see the peaks and the valleys. Groupon on, Groupon off, Groupon on, Groupon off. And this hit and miss type of marketing was getting him the outcome that you see here. Now let's go to 2017. By the way, we started working with this company in May of 2017. So you'll see that we did some test marketing for him and actually ran a campaign back in the holiday period in January. And then he thought about it and we put together a plan for him. We worked on that plan and we implemented that plan in May. So let's look at what happened. Again, he's got some up and down going because he did the promotion with us, then nothing, and then he came back. But here's the difference, is we started marketing consistently for him every month, a solid, consistent marketing plan. And watch how the curve starts to become more consistent and smooth. And see what happens here is that we actually start to break above the previous year's numbers consistently every month. And now look at October versus the previous year, that huge jump. Now let's look at the trend line. So if we look at the trend line now, you'll see that the blue line actually is ready for and is actually experiencing exponential growth every month, getting stronger and better than the month before versus the previous year. What's your guess as to where he might end up in December? What's your guess as to where he's going to start January? I know where my guess is. Now, think about this and let me ask you this question. What if he does cut back? What if he decided, September, December, October is way down. I want to stop marketing. I want to cut back the budget. Do you think that trend line will continue? Will it continue in this fashion? No, it won't, because marketing is an investment that grows exponentially over time. So that's one practical strategy from this, is remember to consistently invest, to consistently put into your marketing budget and watch your results grow exponentially. So let's come back full circle. What would you do? Would you react and let emotions run your business based on a decline in just one period of time? Or would you respond rationally and manage by the numbers? Once again, this is Mark Kanty. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today, and I hope that you've enjoyed this practical strategy, and I look forward to speaking with you and seeing you in the next video soon.